Hello and welcome to TFT North American Regional Finals and World Qualifiers. Final Day 3, Game 4.
Robovan Kenobi, for example. This guy likes to play off meta, and it hasn't exactly rewarded him, but it's not like he got punished either. He's just right there at 12 points, tied with Ripple and Setsuko. And let's just say, for argument's sake, Jukyu and Replay just have some 3 terrible, unbelievably low roll games. That still keeps Robovan in contention. So even though he's tied with Ripple and Setsuko, 2 of the other players that are often in the conversation alongside right now Replay and Jukyu as being the top players in the tournament, we'll see whether or not Robovan can keep up that momentum and see if he can build upon those 5th places.
Yeah, when I got to talk with Robovan before the tournament and ask him some questions about this coming into it, one of the questions was, what does he think about the current meta? And he said, I don't even know what it is right now, but I can adapt to whatever it is. Ooh. And that's a big thing to hear coming from a player where we see them constantly playing different compositions that really aren't on the front runners for the radar. He said his secret. He said his edge was secret. He didn't want to tell it to anybody. He said his preparation was secret coming into this one. That is a lot of information being encapsulated into this. We're seeing a lot of it come to light, but in this final day, it hasn't shown through yet. But we're in the 4th game now. There's 3 more left. You could technically, literally inverse the results that have taken place. And the whole point of it is don't keep your eyes shut as we're going into these final 3 games. All 4 rolls for Robovan here on a 1 cost, 2 cost, 2 cost hero augment, and then settles on the Yasuo there. I feel like this is a big one.
Yeah, so wins with the Wanderer Yasuo. This is a reroll Yasuo that you focus on supers and duelists, although you do have the option of a couple variations. Last time we saw Robovan pick something like this, he ended up going for kind of an unconventional vertical laser core. And that might seem a little obvious to people who, who play the line of laser core and be like, well, Yasuo's a laser core unit, like maybe you should just play that. But that's not usually what you do for the rerolls. So just because he took it doesn't mean we know exactly what Robovan's planning.
Well, I love seeing those compositions come together. I think that the buff to that augment is really opened up the potential for that to even be a playable augment. It was technically one of the worst augments in the game, and for a while held the worst placement in the game if you took a look at the aggregate data that was available for that one. For Setsuko, he's sitting at 12 points in this one. He's kind of had some rubber banded results and really not able to get it done in the last game. And you and I were paying very close attention to Setsuko's spot in the last game, and it felt like that the tools were available, but just not quite able to find some stuff, or perhaps kind of going for that level 9 too quickly. It felt like that even though he got to level 9 and put an Urgot 2 on the board, it just wasn't enough to stabilize. Yeah,
I think that Setsuko's mistake was that he should have rolled at 8. I actually had strongly disagreed with going to 9, because I know Adam and I were looking at that spot, and I was like, man, this spot looks pretty good. And I was like, well, he could easily just go to 9 and die. And that's exactly what happened. And I think if I could be, look, let's just set the stage here. Setsuko is like 10 times the player than I am right now, and he's incredible at the game. But I do think that he has weaknesses as a player, and one of them is that he might be succumbing to ladder habits, which is, I think if he played that game in solo queue, he goes to 9, he stabilizes at like 1 or 2 lives, and then can win out. But these are higher quality players than he's used to queuing into on ladder, and so I don't think that he can get away with going to 9 at 5-2 with 40 gold and hit just an Urgot 2 and be stable. That's not good enough for a lot of these boards that people are crafting. So let's see how he bounces back that next game and see if he can perhaps learn a little bit from that moment, because I don't think going to 9 was an answer personally.
I think a big part of this is keeping your head on your shoulders right now. You're playing for high stakes. You're going to have to finish in top 2. Mental fortitude is going to be a part of it. You have to keep an eye out for everything that's there. So with a 1 cost, 2 cost, 2 cost hero augment, there's not a single player in the lobby who took a 1 cost hero augment. Every single player settled on a 2 cost hero augment. So this is going to be an interesting one to me. I'm not like a huge fan of 2 cost hero augments on 2-1, but when every single player gets them in the light of 1 cost being available, it suddenly opens my eyes a little bit. I feel like a lot of 1 cost hero augments are very strong, and that players are not really moving as much towards the reroll ones, but more towards just straight up strength and utility in trying to find them a spot where it ends up functioning.
Take a look at the carousel 2-shift slam. Replay with a Deathblade slam. We know that he loves doing that.
Oh, yeah.
As a way to get his early damage in. Loves playing around that Riftwalker and Jhin. Let's see if he can go back to his roots, which is, again, a really scary thing. If this is not even his primary game plan, he's succeeding. He does have the Malphite Guardian Spirit as well, which is kind of interesting. You don't actually expect to play Malphite Guardian Spirit into the Riftwalkers per se, but maybe there's an opportunity for him to figure out how to actually tie in, because you just pretty much use Vex as the mascot to tie to link with Malphite, and then you can play Riftwalkers from there.
Looking at Deepe's spot, sitting on 10 points, is going to need absolute stellar looking finishes in these final 3 games. Settling on Jinx carry now, so this is a pretty straightforward line where really the question is, how do you build around this? And I think really maximize the function on this, because this is one of those lines I feel like if you get it online early enough, you can certainly deliver some snowballing effects where players just simply don't have the HP to follow through exactly how they want to. But that requires you to keep getting wins in this one, and this is a pretty hefty loss that Setsuko's handing over to Deepe at this point. But I think that Deepe, again, watching yesterday, the final day, and how he had just had an absolute abysmal finish to the day and then squeaked by into this top 8. It did not feel like he was at all there mentally. It felt like he was so stressed by the thought that that 8th place was going to take him out of the tournament. I'm curious if that's there for him right now and here today. 10 points after 3 games is not a good spot to be in, especially when you need 3 killer performances for these last 3 games.
Yeah, Deepe, by his own admission, we were actually chatting with him on a podcast prior to this tournament. He was saying that he struggles with anxiety a lot, which is very relatable. But also, if you're in a tournament setting, no one's really gonna actually feel sympathy for that. They actually have to capitalize on the fact that he's feeling a little bit nervous under the gun. We'll see if that he's able to rein in that during that break. I hope the best. Deepe is definitely a very notable performer, all the way from the beginning of the set through Box's boot camp ladder event. He surprised everyone, shocking many people going to the very final against Dish Soap, right, toe to toe with Robin Songs. And now look at him now. He all the way here at regionals in the final lobby. He should be very proud. Hopefully he doesn't let that anxiety get the best of him.
Agreed. A little bit of a gold boost. Give me the stimmy for everyone here. And at replay right now, this start ended up being pretty fantastic. A 4 streak coming into this one. The closest anyone's gotten to you is a 3-win streak from Setsuko, and Jukyu on a 5 lose streak. Now for Jukyu, I'm looking at 5 lose streak and 76 HP. That is a ton of gold and pretty strong HP that you have after that.
Yeah, in terms of a full loss streak, it could be worse. So Jukyu did a good job preserving HP, which is pretty consistent with what Jukyu does. I think that might be one of the more underrated things about Jukyu, is that he's playing pretty good boards, even if he's not necessarily winning. He preserves a lot of HP in that circumstance, which might be some of his edge as he goes into stage 3. Robovan, by the way, got that win. You saw how he's at 69, but he didn't full lose streak. That's bad news for Robovan. We'll see whether or not he's able to dig himself out of that unfortunate economic deficit that he's now experienced.
Definitely a tough one to be in for replay here. I imagine this is an evaluation of the board. We're going to use the baby Nico to say 2-star Draven. Sign me up. That's good enough for now.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how the 3-2 hero augment, or sorry, 3-2 augment rather, will shape up now that we have our hero augments. We're looking at Robovan's POV, still stuck on 1 Yasuo, which is not great. But Robovan will probably go for a big roll down with less gold. This is a really easy matchup for replay, queuing up against the lose streak player. Once more, another game, another win streak. And replay loves to be in this position. Let's see what happens on 3-2 and how it shapes the rest of the lobby.
Spoke about when I asked him questions how much Deathblade was strong right now. He emphasized slamming Deathblade and how good it was. And that seems to be holding true right now. 3 pretty strong augments on golds. Just all of them provide different directions. And I honestly feel like the trade sector on 3-2, providing that extra gold boost on top of that, you've now gotten a gold boost off a carousel into a gold boost off of an augment. This is a lot of resources you have to work with.
Yeah, and it gives him a ton of options. He actually even had a secret option of going to level 7, which I don't think you should do in this spot. I know a few players from Korea who might actually want to do this, but I think that for the most part is probably advised. The reason why I think he could is because if he's on a streak, he actually could still make gold, and he gets free rerolls for the rest of the stage on it. But I think that being at 20 gold might be a little bit too little. And I think ultimately he wants to aim for a fast 8. It's just that trade sector is something that you want to leverage the free reroll that you get. So it's something that I could see it. I'm glad he stayed at 6. He has some discipline. I do know a handful of players that would go to 7 though in that spot.
I'm thinking of one in particular. I'm not going to name names right now, though. Replay does look like they're going to lose this win streak, and pretty handedly here as well. Deepay's board is looking fantastic right now. Able to pick up a Jeweled Lotus on top of this, stacked on the enemas. My gosh, Deepay's board is looking like it's going to be pretty scary for the rest of this lobby. Setsuko, the only player now finding them on a highlighted win streak at this point. And my gosh, you talk about the queen of stage 3. Belveth is one of the ones that comes to my mind.
Yeah, there's really no stronger champion to like outfit this specific Last Whisper with at 4 cost. The 4 costs that really define stage 3. One of them is Belveth, as you see on your screen, especially with mana tempering. She's going to cast really often and get that scaling attack damage. The others are Twisted Fate, and sometimes if you get like an early Garen, can be really impactful. Just shout out to Aurelion Soul, but kind of depends if you have good items for it. Setsuko's in a fantastic spot. He has Lee Sin 2. He has 4 Brawler, even has Redemption to capitalize on that HP percentage regen. So he's in a really good spot, and also kind of showcasing that you don't have to just play by the book. I think a lot of people take mana tempering like, well, I don't have an Infinity Team emblem or Affinity Team start. Does that mean that I should be actually playing this? Yes, if you understand how to capitalize onto it and recognize that everyone casting gets additional AD, it can be incredibly powerful. Setsuko is in the driver's seat, which he needs to do if he wants to get that World Championship spot.
That is an excellent highlight to showcase there as well. You know, the strongest board and how to do it. It's different in almost every spot you can imagine if you want to preserve gold. Sometimes your strongest board, it can be a lot stronger if you spend a bunch of gold, but then you spent a bunch of gold. You have to learn how to balance those factors and really play it forward from there. So now in this carousel, just standard stuff that's going on. I'm taking a look at items. Deepay's got a bunch of bows that aren't made through yet. Jukyu has a belt. Pretty much everyone taking advantage of the items right now. Ripple Overdrive, the other player, with a bunch of components ready to make something happen, as we're going to jump over to Jukyu's spot right now. And wow, this is looking pretty good right now. I'm surprised that Jukyu still hasn't put together a win streak from this one. It was an early loss streak with good health preservation, but now something's going to have to happen. Yeah, Jukyu says, I got to make something happen from here. And kind of spring it forward.
That Garen is so big. Janna, I wasn't sure how applicable she is in this spot. Jukyu's going to go for it. Just probably play quality units. And yeah, like Jukyu's a player that's willing to go to level 7 pretty early and make sure to spend gold in order to stabilize. And that Garen addresses the big fundamental problem that Jukyu has, is that he does have 2-star units, but he doesn't have good frontline. And now Kindle Gem's actually working on that front line. It's getting past it. The second wave of burst is actually going to wipe him up as well. So Jukyu still has some frontline issues. Like his back line is all accounted for. He has 2-star Sivir, 2-star Yasuo, 2-star Morgana, like a lot of good stuff going. Just needs to make sure his frontline doesn't crack so fast.
Let's go matches on level 7 as well. Squeaks out a win because of it. Keeps that win streak alive. A lot of players going to 7 in this one. They're understanding they're going to have to fight in this.
What?
Wow.
If he wants to go mascots, this is a really powerful way to access that. So he has Nunu on 7 for a composition that wants it, right? You saw Jukyu go to 7 and not really need it. Now I can go Brawler Nunu. This is potentially really strong. The only thing is that he doesn't have gadgetines. Part of what makes Warmogs and HP so powerful on Nunu in the gadgetine lines, you have that damage reduction. It doesn't have such ability to survive, so I am curious as he goes up against Robovan Kenobi, who has picked up the last stand gold tier augment. This is my favorite gold tier because it just encourages you to go for 1 HP win outs, which are really hype. Does he have the components though to be able to do that comeback though?
That's a big question of it. And honestly, I have to join you on one of the favorite augments in the game. I'd say it's one of the most appropriately named augments in the game as well. It's just, how much more accurate can you get? It's just the boost comes through. Setsuko loses the streak going in the Wolves. That is a big deal.
It's a big deal, but somewhat to be expected because after all, Jukyu's been spending his gold at 7 and Setsuko is at 43 gold. Actually, Jukyu equaled at 37, so it looks like it's that HP differential that's going to be marking it. Shout out to our production crew, by the way. We do have all the streaks and the gold as well as our most recent result. just to help you get a picture, as right now you can tell there's a lot of resources being accrued at level 750. The question is, who is going to be rolling and who is going to be greeting? Pay close attention as we get to the 4-1 breakpoint here.
Deep I think a little bit torn on where to go with this. This is going to go to 7. Going to take their time. Need so. Robovan, meanwhile, is going to start digging. You're going to have to find the good stuff off of this one.
Okay. So Deepay...
Kindle Jib. Ooh.
Yeah, Deepay right now doesn't want to commit to rolling either that deep or he wants to go to 7. Rolling at 6 gives him access to Jinx 3 odds. Going to 7 gives him better odds for everything else in Anima Squad. I'm pretty sure Deepay's win condition is that he wants to 3-star as many of these units as possible and try to just overwhelm with stats. The good news is that he started off on a streak, so he does actually have a lot of stacks. Getting a couple of kills here. Every single stack of fame that you can get will matter, as he is pre-leveling to 7 and hoping that that would change things. Now we also pay attention to the augment. Will this be the augment that everyone is looking for? Could have a huge impact on some of these people's games.
Let's go take another loss here. This is a big round. Another gold augment here, and a lot available for players. Oh my.
It's got to be Ancient Archives. You can get another Anima Squad emblem. That would potentially be huge. You could replace awkward units like this Silas. We're rolling. We're trying to see if we can 2-star these units. Rid the tome, and he finds Prankster emblem, which is actually quite good. Gives him the access to having 4 Prankster, that 2-second stun buff, and now can go for Gnar. One off Jinx 3, by the way. And he might be tempted to send. Deepay's an aggressive roller. Oh my god, he's actually going for it. 2-star Riven. Finds a Garen. He really wants to get it. He can sell Poppy, play the Garen. That is our strongest board. Looks like Deepay is not focused on that, though. He's going to go scout and try instead to maximize positioning. If you don't see it, don't worry. You can get it in the next round.
2-star versus 1-star. It's not a huge difference this round, I would say, but it is a difference. So replays board, I would say, is looking fantastic. That is a Manazane on an Aurelion Soul 2, and you've got the rest of the board pretty much put together at this point. I'd say that obviously the overwhelming number of stats is going to be your goal on these, but I don't think that's quite there just yet. Deepay is going to take some more losses, needs to get this board a little bit more pieced together. Jinx 3 is probably the biggest deal on the board right now, but my gosh, Ripple Overdrive's board is looking like a menace at the moment, and Stand United feels like a pretty fantastic pickup when you have such a bizarre set of traits that ends up getting put together in a situation like that.
Yeah, just good base stats to just make all of your units hit that much harder, and it becomes a team effort. Sometimes you're really impressed by some of the off carries, or even just units without even any items. They might contribute a good amount. We're looking at Robovan's board state. He's got 7 Yasuos. He has an orb implying that that is another Yasuo, so I think he's one off. One off Neela 3, one off Yasuo 3. He's at 4 HP though, so he can't exactly take that much more damage for triggering the last stand. So probably gonna lose this fight. And when last stand activates, he really desperately needs access to the Yasuo. If there's a Yasuo on carousel, he's likely gonna beeline for it because he needs to guarantee it at this point.
Literally in a win out must position. Ripple Overdrive picking up another win there. Let's go taking a bit of a loss. Kindle Gem and Ripple Overdrive now putting up big win streaks on this. My gosh, these boards are, I will say, they're looking kind of wild right now, but I am loving the way that these are shaping up. Some of these look just crazy unique. This isn't something, doesn't feel like something that you see all the time. So Robovan Kenob, not really a ton of just wildly good options that you're looking for at the moment. Feels like Belt and 5 gold is going to be the benefit from that one. I'm trying to look at what players are going to want to piece together the most off of this.
Oh, Sasuko looking for more frontline items. I'm going to take this vest. I just noticed all those items are slammed for the most part. He needs to find more frontline. Wants to capitalize off Bandit's Headbring. A lot of times you want to play mech in the spot that Setsuko is. Let's check in with and see what is happening over in Setsuko land. Finds the Garen, has the mech pieces ready to go. That's a Wukong pair. If we can find 2-star units, we're ready to make that transition relatively quickly. And I think this is where we start to change things up. But he is playing 1-star mech. That Wukong 2 helps. If you find Garen 2, Setsuko will be good. Bel'Veth 2, that is useful. And Setsuko had a very meaningful power spike.
Yes, that feels necessary to me at this point. The front line is a bit weak at the moment, and against Deepay, who just 3-started Jinx, this is going to be a tough one. I will say that the thrill of the hunt here feels like it could be a massive difference for Setsuko as well. I felt like the one thing that was really lacking here was if Bel'Veth gets tied up in an outnumbered spot, you have to be able to hold true, and that's exactly what this thrill of the hunt can provide at this point. Even the phony dummy gives you something there. Softens that loss a little bit. Setsuko taking a loss, a little bit more strength needed to really get this going. Robovan out in 8th place.
4 pranksters showing off why Deepay valued it, because that stun, that repetitive stun, and the teleport to safety and the keeping that unit frozen. So very annoying board to deal with, and then eating a point blank rocket from Jinx to stun it as well. I just felt like Setsuko didn't even get a chance to play that second half of the game. If he was able to get things like Thrill of the Hunt going, would have been a good spot. But make no mistake, fights like that are only going to get harder for Deepay the stronger things like this Garen get, because when the Garen stays alive, this Bel'Veth with the Gunblade keeps it alive, and that is when it becomes really difficult to deal with Setsuko's board.
Ripple Overdrive now still fighting for the win streak here. Kindle Gem and Ripple Overdrive could potentially hold up win streaks going into the end of stage 4. And my gosh, this board is still so menacing. There's just so much HP on the board. But Bel'Veth finds a way to the back line. A stun from Morgana is going to slow things down a little bit. Thrill of the Hunt looks like it's going to keep Bel'Veth up for a little bit longer, but is now focused in 2 points of damage. It is a Jin 1 that's delivering this damage, but Bel'Veth dances away onto a Nunu. Can it pick up the kill here? Can it pick up the kill? Finds a kill there. Massive deal. A little bit more HP. Garen's down, though. Bel'Veth, a little bit too much damage at the end. 1-star Jin looks like it's the difference there.
I mean, it's just 1-star everything for a lot of these players. We'll see how things get online and how it changes things. Not only is it just Jin 2, but it makes Zac stronger. So nice job from Setsuko to put out that DPS with the Bel'Veth. It kind of goes to show you how important keeping Garen alive is the Bel'Veth. The moment people shifted targets to Bel'Veth, they got really scary with her HP count. HP, by the way, is something that Robovan Kenobi does not have any left. That last stand trigger did not do enough for him. It doesn't look like he was able to stabilize, and unfortunately, a line that I think he has found success with in the past has ended in 8th place, which may eliminate him from contention in terms of AVP. Now, he starts to get to the point where Robovan either has to play for a complete win out and hope that everything miraculous happens, or he has to just resign the fact that maybe it's just not his day today and he's got to play for the highest placement he can get for that prize money.
Yep, prize money is still quite a bit. You know, we have 35,000 up for grabs. That's not what we're going to be focused on. For Robovan, maybe that's the focus at this point. But for the rest of these players, it's hunting out a spot at the set championships right now. A stacked Aurelion Soul 2. Replay plays for the board, then figures out the items in this one. Taking a look at Ripple Overdrive in the bottom left. Still a pretty wildly good-looking board at that point. Deepay having a Shroud up for grabs. Going to send that to the left side. Big Shroud landed. The Jin, no really big impact, though. So now it's up to this Jinx, but the Jinx gets stunned right away by Aramis. The Prankster gets triggered right away as well. There's 4 Pranksters here. And MF, pretty good range on that cast, but the Aurelion Soul able to pick that off. Massive deal there. Deepay eating a hit here and suddenly is on the chopping block for that one as Replay picks up a win. Ripple Overdrive taking a loss. Kindle Gem still on a big streak.
Replay actually made a pretty interesting decision. He had an opportunity to go Infinity Edge or Guard Breaker, but he waited to see what the fight was, to see what he needed, because Replay is playing for placements, which is what's my best placement I can get based off this winning this next fight. And he saw that there was Echo and Riven, 2 units that shield a lot, and he has a Ruinous Hurricane, meaning that if he activates Guard Breaker through proccing on either of those units, he was able to get that bonus damage and limit the backline. That's really heads up. It does kind of potentially have implications on how his late game is if he really needs access to things like that Infinity Edge crit, but we'll see, because right now he's just trying to see if he can maximize that placement at the top 4. Going against Malala, who's also playing the Riftwalker trait. Let's see who wins this mirror match.
Restar Ramus got picked up for Replay in that fight as well in that one. That's a big amount of front line that's being added to this board, and right now the backline for Replay is looking pretty healthy on this one. Aurelion Soul has eaten up the mana Zanes at this point, but it's done the most of the work. for the rest of this board. Big hits, but Pike able to pick this off as well. So Rammus is still in this fight, but Aurelion Sol now one of the focuses. But the Jhin is getting picked down, but the damage spread is just fantastic for this. Malala picks up a win in a spot that, frankly, I didn't look at that board and think that Malala was favored at the start of that one, Frodan.
Oh, he wasn't. He needed some really fortunate fight RNG to play out in his favor, and that's exactly what happened. The way Jin's flourish on replay side was not lining up, and you saw things like the Phantom from Pike with the stun, plus the force shot from Malala's Jhin, getting that flourish and execute. All of that panned out beautifully for Malala, but I'm pretty sure you play that fight 10 times over, Malala is very unfavored. So he got a bailout from Mortdog once. He's going to need another one against Setsuko's board, who now has Garen 2.
And Setsuko, I'm seeing a pair of 2-star Bel'Veth that are online for this one right now. Kindle Jhin, meanwhile, finally had the streak broken, but in this fight, look at the strength of that Garen just tackling the board as Bel'Veth dances to the back, wipes out the main source of damage. This is an easy win for Setsuko, I think.
And Malala can't afford to take losses like this. Thankfully, Mech at least kills 2 units on top of everything else. But Malala is right now beelining for another bottom finish, which would be just devastating given that he is the leading candidate behind Juke and replay for average placement. At this point, Malala is playing for something bigger than just first or second place, or rather, perhaps a little bit lower. He's trying to get in through the highest average placement. A 7th here is devastating, especially if Setsuko continues his charge to a top 2.
That's right. Right now, Jukyu and replay are the front runners for points. It's going to be difficult for the rest of the field to catch them. Malala sits at 3.73 average placement. Setsuko right behind at 3.93 average placement. So Setsuko could still play for a position where maybe he has a fight for the top 2 spot. But if he can pick off the average placement from Malala, that is a big victory in the book of Setsuko. So if you're a fan of either of those players, keep an eye on their finishes of these next 3 games. Not just if they're putting up big performances, but how their performances are stacking up against each other. Kindle Jhin, meanwhile, has spent the life to get the gold to go to level 9. Can they convert this now into something big? I saw a lot of 1-stars in that board, Dan, but a lot of utility on the bench as well.
We'll see. In the meantime, we're hopping on board with Malala. He needs to win this fight. Jhin gets Zephyr, which is bad news bears for Malala.
Ripple Overdrive with a big fiddle sitting in the middle of this board as well. That is a brawler emblem on top of a fiddlesticks. That is a ton of damage it's going to take to break through that. The Jhin 1 on Ripple Overdrive side of the board finally gets picked off, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor in this fight. A few more stuns. The Fiddle is wiping out a lot of the damage that Ripple Overdrive would have taken for this fight, but this was a critical win for Malala at this point. Ripple Overdrive going to fall down to the bottom 3 right now. DP takes another loss, sitting at 12 HP. Meanwhile, at the top of the lobby, it's still Kindle Jhin, it's still Juke Yu. Replay is right behind, and then Setsuko picks up a loss. Maybe a few cracks showing in his team.
My God, another game where Jukyu just makes a late game level 8 charge. This guy is so consistent and continues to do it. Jhin 2 for Ripple Overdrive. Is that enough for him to win this next fight? Everything is so close at HP wise, and he's going up against replay guarantee. It's going to be another Riftwalker mirror, but he's up against the Ghost. And that's a 2-star Nunu from replay.
It's a big shroud on that left side of the board. But my gosh, that is a big board on the other side as well. For Ripple Overdrive, I don't think I've felt this nervous with a player fighting a Ghost in a long time. The Fiddle is going to hopefully eat up a bunch of damage here. We need this Jhin to pick off a lot of units if you're in Ripple Overdrive spot. Right now, the Rammus gets cracked through. Big news as the stun comes through. Slows down that Jhin just enough to get the focus damage. Wipes out the Aurelion Sol. Malala out in 7th place. Ripple Overdrive living to fight through stage 6.
Replay also took a pretty big loss. And Replay is just basically collecting points to make sure that he can secure it. I think most people are already prematurely crowned him as the winner of North America Regionals, but he wants to try to squeeze out as many points to secure that fact. But even though he's at 5 HP, looking at the rest of the lobby, you see that players like Setsuko are still at 18 HP. That is still within danger zone on stage 6. You could die if you take a pretty hefty loss by 5 units or so. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Take a look at Jukyu's board. Looks like he is very stable with the Mana Tempering Infinity. This guy has been very impressive, and while he hasn't been the star of today by himself, he potentially could make some big gains on replay if he's able to go for a first.
It'll being found for GQ as well. I feel like you left out a key detail there. Replay is fighting to contest the record of Robin from the 5.5 regionals that took place. GQ finds a 2-star Samira. Where does this go? I guess that's
on
the
the
answer.
board.
I love the order of operations of cracking these items
Unblade.
at the end, too. Quick evaluation of this. Setsuko, meanwhile, a pair of itemized Belveths at this point. That's a big deal. These Belveths getting a little bit of damage here, but not taking a focus. Just completely destroys that front line. And look at how powerful Setsuko's board is if you are not able to take care of these Belveths right away. Massive loss for Jukyu there. Replay is going to go out in 6th place. Ripple Overdrive out in 5th. Top 4 in Game 4.
Deepay made it to top 4, which is huge for him, but Jukyu trying to make gains on replay. He's 5 points behind, and right now he's at least gotten 2. Let's see if he can continue to play for that extra change. Meanwhile, Setsuko with a huge victory. That is the storyline I want to draw attention to, because whether or not Setsuko can make huge gains on Malala will make all the difference between his chance at regionals and stopping here versus going to the World Championship. Setsuko versus Kindle Gem. Can he do it?
Focus on the left side of your board. Each player landing a shroud to a key side of this one, but the Belveths are where I am very scared for Kindle Gem in this one. This Garen is holding up for a long time, but so is Kindle Gem's side of the board. Setsuko's cracks first.
Oh.
That's a big loss that's being taken there. 2 players getting knocked out here. For Setsuko, the life is the difference. Out in 3rd, Deepay out in 4th.
That's +4 of a difference between him and Malala. We'll have to see what the damage report is for the average placements after this. Really hoping that he probably could have gotten more than that. But Kindle Gem has done a great job to stabilize his level 9 board. And what's really impressive about Kindle Gem's board is that it doesn't even really look like a level 9 board, quite frankly. It looks like he's just at level 7 or 8. And he just found an extra Tactician's Crown. Like, what is particularly impressive about level 9 board? He has a Leona 1. Is that enough to take down Jukyu and potentially steal a victory?
Shroud coming in on the left side. Just a lot of units in play with Oxforce. That's what I'm seeing. Oh, plus a Jeweled Lotus. Forgot about that one. Oh, it's adaptive defense